Quiet on the set. Take 73.
Okay, welcome everybody to the first pilot pancake episode of the Driving Relationships podcast, where we talk about people, process, and profit.
My favorite.
Yes. I am Austin Conroy, and this is my co-host,
Zach Kinch. How are we, everyone?
And today we have a very special guest with us on our first pilot, Jason Troxel.
Yes, sir.
Jason is on his second tour in the car business, is the general manager at Bob Roman Hyundai. So, Jason, talk to us a little bit, I guess, just about where are you from? Tell us about family.
Okay.
What's going on?
Well, originally from this area, grew up in a small town north of here, about 20 minutes, Otterburn. Went to Benton Central High School and have a wife of 29 years this year.
Ooh.
Awesome.
So, yes. And
kudos to that one.
I know. She's put up with a lot. So, very blessed with that. 4 kids, 25, 22, 20, and 12.
And you have a couple of the kids tricked into working for you.
Absolutely. Yes.
Cool. And what do they do for you?
2 of them sell cars right now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very good. So Otterburn, for those of you who don't know, they have the dugout there, which is probably one of the best places ever to get ice cream. Serve it in styrofoam cups. You don't have to ask for extra fillers on your Hurricanes. So
On your Hurricanes.
we do love it. We do love it. So, and then I think another interesting thing about your background. So you were actually a general manager at this store at Bob Roman Toyota. Is that correct? And
yeah,
you got kicked out by Trey Rorman, of course.
About 3 to 4 months before this building opened.
So you thank you.
Yeah, I got to build it.
You built it,
but I didn't get to work it.
So tell us about how you first got started in the car business.
It's kind of funny. I managed Subways going through high school and a little bit of the college years, which didn't really have any college years, just more work than college years. So one day decided I saw an ad. They were hiring at Honda for salespeople, and I thought, I'm going to go in there, check it out. The general manager went in there, asked for the general manager. He wasn't there. He was at lunch. And they said, you can come back.
Sounds right.
That's the story of a general manager.
Right. You can come on back. I said, okay, great. And as I left, turned right on Sagamore Parkway and thought, you know what? I'm going to pull into Toyota.
Oh, really?
And Craig Gibson greeted me and said, come on back. And an hour later, when can you start? So that was in 1996.
Wow.
I think we were born in 90s. No, just kidding.
Yeah, what I think is crazy, because I get the question all the time of how do I get started in the car business? How do I do? And I always tell people, like, just show up.
Yeah, show up and make the choice.
Literally get your foot in the door. And I think that's a perfect example of, hey, you tried one store and missed opportunity for them. Yeah. You walk into another store and boom, you got a job.
Yes.
Like no resume, probably no drug screens back then.
No. No.
You're on. Can you start tomorrow, right?
That's
or this
basically,
afternoon?
are you breathing here? Check the mirror.
Yeah.
Yep, mirror fogged up. You're
Can
good.
you start later today?
Yes.
So, Jason, how long did you stay in the Toyota sales floor? What's that journey to obviously your first in a general manager, and then obviously just to clarify, get into the career opportunity that took you away from the car business?
I started at an exciting time because before your guys' time, you guys remember tent sales?
Yeah, we remember tents.
We always had one in May and August every year. And
2 of them.
Yes. And it started at the fairgrounds where you guys were at before, but it was before pavement.
Oh.
So mud, dirt, gravel.
Dirt, dust, everything.
It would get wet enough we'd have pallets as the floor underneath the tent. And it was a game of the day going, who's going to fall? Because some guy would be running across there trying to get to the next customer and the pallet would snap. Bam, guys in the mud. So, yeah, lots of fun. So, my second week in the business, May tent sale.
True.
So, very exciting. So, yeah, I started selling cars in 96 and did that until about 98. Finance manager at Toyota said, hey, I'm going to become the general manager at the Mitsubishi at that time and Hyundai store. Why don't you come be my sales manager? No, I'm good. That went on for probably about 2 months, and he finally suckered me into coming in.
Closed you.
He closed me. So
Lay down deluxe.
Yeah, and became sales manager there for in 98. Did that for about a year and a half, and something came up to where he left the business, and Mr. Rorman said, hey, you're up. I said, okay, let's do this, and became general manager there. Did that until, gosh darn, trying to remember what year that was, but I want to say 01, 02.
So how old are you at this point?
At this point, I am 24, 25.
So Big Chief makes you a GM in your early 20s.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Were you
nothing
ready
wrong, right?
for that? Were you ready for that?
Probably not. The arrogance wells up, and you're like, oh, okay, I could do this. Not a big deal. But at the time, the store was a lot smaller than what it is now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I was trained well, and I was blessed with great people around me that trained me well, picked me up when I fell. So I've always been in the right place at the right time, which is nice. So I learned early on to surround myself with great people. And if you can do that, you can do a pretty good job.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I did that for quite a while there for a few years. And then in 2002, Mr. Romer and I were talking about me getting a bigger store, but the opportunities just weren't there. So 2002, I want to say October, became the sales manager at Toyota. And 6 months later, became the GM at Toyota.
Awesome.
So, yeah, so getting back to where I started, back to the roots, was pretty cool. And again, just right place, right time, right people. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, so you worked alongside Mr. Rohrman, who, we all know is just an icon in the car business.
Yeah.
And, his story, for those of you who don't know, is absolutely incredible. Growing up on dirt floors not too far from here to building, one of the largest privately owned auto groups that has ever existed, right? And so what a rags to riches type story. But there's always so many amazing stories from employees that worked for him. And not only the quirky advertising and, the funny sound bites, but what is something that, what is your one Bob Rohrman story, if you could tell it?
There's been so many, and I just was telling somebody recently that if there's one big thing that I miss is the conversation. Sometimes the learning conversations. Sometimes at the beginning of those, you don't realize it's a learning conversation, but he makes sure you understand it's a learning conversation. His laughter was so fun because once he gets to giggling, especially when he's laughing at himself, you start giggling.
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, it's over.
Yeah.
But no, him taking time, I remember one time in particular where he just pulls up to the dealership, not in a spot, does the come on out, okay. And they're like, oh boy, this isn't going to be good. And he says, get in. I'm like, okay. And I'm, oh, this really isn't going to be good. And he just drove me through the lot and said, hey, I want to show you a couple things. And I won't ever forget that because we didn't see that side of him a lot because he would come in a meeting, this is where we need to be, get there, and that was it. So when you got that time with him, it was pretty precious and valuable because he was like, I want to show you this, look for these traps, and pay attention. Great, got it. And then from there on, he knew that I was going to take care of that. So our conversations from there were a little different.
For sure.
Yeah. But he was still the leader that said, hey, job's not getting done. We need to get it done. And it was always, it's time to get it done.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. As many dealerships as he owned, as much property, as many brands, it was like he would drive you through the lot, right? And what would he say? No holes in row one.
Yep.
I don't want two same color cars parked next to each other. It was that meticulous and detailed, right?
And if I got to do it for you, babe, I don't need you.
Now, babe, you got who the heck you have lined this front row, babe? This guy got one eye.
That guy don't need no job anymore, babe. You got to go get rid of him. No, but I think in all those, we all have the Mr. Rohrman stories, and I think that's amazing. Like, where do you pull from what you saw from him firsthand working with him into customer experience today? What are you teaching your staff, your people in the process of customer experience that maybe he taught you through that process of slowing down and working directly with you?
Well, it was exactly that, slowing down, and just he even said, sometimes you got to just stop and go, hey, doesn't matter what's happening over here. You got a customer right in front of you. That customer walks in, that's cash, babe. So,
True.
yeah, that's the customer that's right in front of you, the most important person of your day, right there. Take care of them, and they'll take care of you.
And I think that's so amazing, too, because it's so simple and makes sense to anyone that's listening. But I also think it's part of the generational change where everyone's got so advanced into technology and their phones, and the now culture that when it comes into buying a car, everything's pre-processed, but then we forget about that moment of the now and reminding ourselves that, the customer's feelings in these moments are more important than anything that we may deliver, offer, provide, and that sometimes we miss that exact moment that could swing a deal one way or another, or in a service experience, or even the long-term customer relation.
Yeah.
So I think that's some great stuff there for listeners.
Yeah, he believed in saying hello to everybody. If he walked in the showroom, he would make sure everybody knew he was there.
Yeah, and it was the worst if you were going with him somewhere and you had to go through the showroom because it could be 40 to 50 minutes
Yes.
because of that purpose. So
Yeah.
for sure.
So eventually, though, you ended up leaving the auto group and got involved again with Subway,
Yeah.
I guess. So what was that? You were a franchise owner.
Yeah, so 2012, June of 2012 was my last month. My brother, who's been in Subway for many years, had a friend selling some Subway franchises. My family was young. At the time, my oldest was 13, and I didn't want to move my family because we moved 4 hours south.
Yeah.
So basically took the family away from our family and tried the Subway franchise for a bit. And it was exciting because it gave me a different perspective of customer service. So what I learned from this fast-paced to a slower pace and going into quick service or fast food, whatever you want to call it, your customer base there is dependent on speed and convenience. So the frequency that we have with them is different from what we have in the car business. We're looking for that short-term relationship in the quick service. Car business, we're looking for that long-term relationship. So, yeah, I learned quite a bit. What I did battle with, though, when I went there, my first 6 months probably, is just the personal mindset of the employees. Going from the fast-paced, commission-based to somebody just sitting back and kind of hanging out, waiting for it to come to them. So I battled with that for probably 6 months, but we figured it out. I mean, it's people. If you genuinely like people and love people, then the rest is easy.
Yeah, and I think like for the car business, we let pay plans dictate a lot of things in the car business, right? And there's a lot of people who are very entrepreneurial, very sales-minded, very business-minded that are push drive. So what was it at Subway? Because you said you figured it out after a few months. What was it in terms of managing people that maybe weren't being able to manage themselves, with like a pay plan?
Yeah, there's always that group, and we see a little bit now to where you're only going to get so much from them. Their production's going to be this and that's it. Even though coming in and making a sandwich, it's the same. I mean, processes, everything comes with a process. So same thing, because if you go in a Subway here versus a Subway in Southern Indiana, sandwich is going to be the same.
Yeah. The ingredients are even in the same spot, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's like what? Bread, meat, cheese, toast or no toast. Then you do all your vegetables, sauce, you're good.
Wow, that sounds like a veteran of Subway.
I've been there a few times.
What's your favorite sandwich?
It used to be the cold cut combo, and then I feel like I grew up like the chicken bacon ranch.
There
And I
you
got to
go.
have it toasted. Probably double toasted too if I need to.
toasted,
As long as the line's not too long. I'm not the kind of guy that's like, whoa,
So
double
something-
toast, come on.
So something else that's very similar also is I bet you guys remember your first car sold and what
yeah.
it was, right?
Don't tell me you remember your first sandwich made.
Well, oh gosh, that was in freshman year of high school. That's a long time ago.
Ooh, babe, I
But-
thought we were going there.
Same thing though. You remember as the customers come in.
Oh, yeah,
foot long
for sure.
meatball, or he's a foot long tuna guy, and you can usually have it ready by the time
Hang
you
on.
see him pull
Who's
in
a
the parking.
foot long tuna guy? Who's a
That's a
foot-long
lot of tuna
guy?
to be chasing down a foot long of it.
It is.
And what toppings do you put on that? I mean, that.
Do you know what you smell like all afternoon?
Lettuce, tomato, pickle, sometimes onion.
Yeah, I know who's a foot long tuna guy now. Question and answer. So getting back to the car business Subway connection, when did you go again down south for the Subway opportunity, and when did the transition back to the Roman Automotive team occur?
So 2012, July 2012. So I jumped right in it. I moved down there a couple weeks after I left here, and my family stayed here. Wife worked on selling the house, getting kids to sports events and all that. So when I say she's a trooper, she's definitely.
God bless her.
Yeah, absolutely. So was there by myself, lived with my brother at the time for about 6 months. By the time we got them down there, it was right at the end of the year.
Okay.
by the time we got them there, and did it for 10 years. And sometime in late 2020, just text Trey Rorman. Him and I stayed in contact ever since I left. Just, hey, how are you? How's the family? Family looks like they're growing on Facebook or whatever it is. And just sent him a text, said, hey, when you got 2 seconds, let's chat. And he called me right away. I was in the car driving from one store to another, and he says, what's up? And we caught up a little bit, and I said, let's have a what-if conversation. He was like, when can you start? And I said, no,
Hey, so
hold
the
on a
car
second."
business doesn't change.
Right.
Full circle.
Exactly. So we had a conversation, and it took a year and a half, almost 2 years, to get my processes in place for us to be able to come back home. So, and come back home near to our family, come back home to the business. So
For sure.
once you're in this business, if you love it, it never leaves you. So as I was doing that, I was always doing something with it. So either wholesaling cars on Marketplace, whatever
Something
it was,
like that.
always kept trying to do something with it.
Let's talk about this though, because how much time between when you left the business to when you've come back now? How many years was that with Subway?
10 years.
So it's almost like somebody, I don't know, goes and lives on a deserted island for 10 years
Castaway
and you come
movie.
back and you're like, whoa, what
Yeah.
in the world? So like, let's talk about that. What are the biggest changes? I mean, I got to think you're telling, the tent sale story, which I think is great. I mean, back then, how did you price the cars? How do you price them now? Like even those things.
Well, right. So Trey, when him and I sat down, he's like, okay, I'm going to tell you, it's going to be 6 months to a year for you to get back in the swing of it. And I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, trust me, really. It's changed a lot. And I said, okay. And yeah, he wasn't right. It was like coming in and it just, that wind just hits you. So the digital part of it is exciting, but also it can scare you a little.
For sure.
Or you sit down and he says, here's our 20 group composite. That's an inch thick. Figure this out. And you're like, oh boy.
By next week, because you're going to present on it.
Right. So yeah, just the tools that are just at our fingertips now that we didn't have before. Before it was, okay, we appraised this car for this. We're going to throw some tires on it and maybe clean it up. And we'll sell it for this.
Gut feelings.
Yeah, it was all the old guy gut.
Yeah.
And what you felt worked most of the time. It worked for Mr. Orman a lot. So it worked very well for him. So figuring that out. But now we got these tools that gives us all those answers.
Yeah.
And says, this market, it will fit this. This market, it will fit that. So I was like, this is pretty cool.
For sure.
Yeah, and I think too, speak a little bit to, because I think it gives dealers a ton of data, but then there's also this more transparent experience for the customer too,
Yes.
right? Because gone are the days where you're ripping trades, gone are the days where you're, using a marker every morning at the tent sale, probably adjusting prices. So talk to us a little bit about that. Do you feel like there is more transparency for the customers now in the car business?
Absolutely, because anymore, those customers that come in and walk in our door, they are as knowledgeable as we are on all of our cars, especially the new cars.
If not more.
Exactly. And it was great because sitting in a meeting with Ryan Orman last week, he had a great point. If you sit down face-to-face with that customer and they are equally knowledgeable as you are on this vehicle, you're going to lose.
For sure.
So, but then again, it opens up the transparency window saying, hey, and then you can have that conversation. So absolutely.
Yeah, and we hope, as an auto group, I was just changing the reputation in the car business. There's always going to be bad dealers out there, but, hopefully, we can see and feel that reputation changing. And I think a lot of it is the transparency of the data. A lot of it is, how we're doing business is different now than we used to. The four squares.
Yeah.
I mean, how easy is it to hide any detail with a four square versus now it's, everything's online. You can do a whole deal online, right? Are you guys into that now in terms of the digital retailing space and pouring effort and money into that, delivering cars without people ever being in the showroom?
We have actually. It's exciting but scary at the same time because one, we don't get that face-to-face relationship with the customer to build that relationship. It's usually those cars or vehicles or customers that live 2, 3, 4 hours away though that we're doing that with. So you can try to build that relationship over the phone or over FaceTime with that customer. But yeah, we've done some handful of some of those deals, especially in this month. which has been pretty exciting. Coming back to the auto group, the cool thing about what opened my eyes of going, hey, yes, this is good confirmation for me to come back, was one, the transparency of the auto group, of the new generational leadership, I guess we can call them.
Yeah.
They stewarded it very well. From somebody sitting on the outside watching in, I got excited. So you asked me earlier of why did I come back? That's one of the main reasons is seeing what they did very well, and they're still doing it.
Yeah.
Their engagement in community is, and I might be jumping the gun here over topics that you're wanting to
You're
get
good wherever
into,
you want to
but-
take it. Yeah, that's good.
But their engagement in the community. I mean, anybody can hand cash and go, here you go. But these guys not only hand the cash out, then they're involved. You see them in the community and hands on. So that was the first thing I said. Okay, pay attention. What are they doing? And then they started doing some things that I pitched before I left that never took any fruition or never caught any traction. So when Trey says, hey, we got this new thing called Rorman Restored. And I'm like, what's that? So he explained the program. I'm like, oh, that's it.
Confirmation you made the right choice.
Absolutely. And he says, oh, by the way, we got Pastor Whipple coming on as our chaplain. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is pretty cool. And I got to have some coffee with him and get to know him a little bit because I hadn't seen him in 15 years.
Yeah.
So just those two confirmations of going, okay, because Trey knows it. I had an offer to go somewhere else that paid me more.
Yeah.
But these two things came up and it was like, okay, it's time to go back and close that circle
Sure.
and finish that up.
So that's 2023 when you come back.
22, December of 22. So 23 pretty much because it was like
so
the
the end of
28th.
2022 come back as a GSM of Rorman Hyundai here in Lafayette, and then 6 months, 8 months, take over the role of the GM.
About 9
Kind of
to
step
10.
into that role. 2 questions for you. You've now touched multiple brands. You've seen different things, different industries. What's the biggest takeaway that you can take from your whole work experience career to what you're going to teach this next generation? And then what's exciting about the Hyundai brand? It seems like it's kind of flipped completely in the last 2 years from a brand searching for identity to a brand that's on an upward trend, and obviously a lot of optimistic things that are coming out of the Hyundai lineup.
Oh, one, I'm the type of person or personality that gets excited to, I like to figure people out, and I like to get to know them. And as a leader, what gets me excited and passionate about what I do is you may get a fresh person or salesperson or even an office person that says, I think I can only give this much. But then you show them they're worth this much.
Yeah.
And then when they bridge that, you help them bridge that gap, and then they're like, I had no idea I could do that. So you as a leader, when you hear them say that, it's the most rewarding thing that we can have. So I'm excited about helping build, because my staff is probably the youngest staff we have in the auto group. So it's my job to prepare them, one, for life, and two, the business world. And it's not a job. And that's what I explained to them in the interview. If you're looking for a job, it's not the right place. If you're looking for a career, it's a great place to be. Sure. As for Hyundai, the technology that they have been coming out with in the last 2 years is not to go against anybody else, but because we have some great brands in our auto group, but I think they're a step ahead of a few brands,
for sure,
which is very exciting. What we see as AI continues to just grow and become better, I think we're going to see more and more of that selling cars, or even not servicing cars, but setting the appointment, probably. But I'm excited to see at the end of the year how Hyundai moves with selling cars on Amazon.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty cool. It's already kind of set up, but it's not in full swing just yet.
For sure.
Basically what they're doing right now, you can go on Amazon, build your car, and then it sends you, like if they were locally here, send them to our website. They order the car through us, they pick it up.
You know, I think there was a lot of mixed emotions on that program when it first rolled out. I think initially when I saw it, I thought, this seems like a great thing for dealers. And then you start reading the feedback of, well, maybe this isn't so great.
Right.
Yeah, I think people are just a little confused about what it is. But, do you see at some point, I mean, is that where it's moving? And do you as a Hyundai dealer, and you represent the Genesis brand as well, right?
Yeah.
But, on the Hyundai side of it, do you see that as an advantage to have it listed on Amazon?
Yeah, I do, but there's that part of you that thinks, what's going to happen to a lot of these jobs? So there's someone that's going to have to press the button
Yeah.
or make sure the car is clean, make sure the car is free of any damage, stuff like that. So it makes you wonder, though. I think we're probably not far away 10, 20 years to where a lot of manufacturers may adopt that Tesla version of, here's the showroom, just come pick it up. So it's exciting to see what's going to happen, but then again, you're like, not 100% sure of how it's going to work.
Have you and your team adopted the new dress code yet with the Amazon agreement? The blue vests that go over and
We have not. We have
Okay,
not.
so that's something I would advise you to get, obviously, because that's going to be hard to supply with the Hyundai
Right.
change. But I think to the point that you made about consumers now aren't looking for that relation. They're not looking for that long term. They're looking for that satisfaction today. And I can tell you this right now, that even watching my 8-year-old start to ask questions about buying specific things, there's no care in the world where, why, how, just give me
give it to
it, and I want it. And it's been interesting with giving an allowance to an 8-year-old and giving $3, $5, and it doesn't matter what I'm buying, it's that I need it now.
Yeah.
So I think the part that'll be extremely exciting for you in that transition is, how do you take that short-term relationship experience you have from a Subway, which is crazy to think you could draw back on that now in automotive,
Right.
and make that relationship that, hey, you're coming in to pick up your Santa Fe today. I have your son, who's part of your team, as you mentioned, who's my product specialist, that's going to walk you through every feature, because we just mentioned our technology is so advanced. So super cool. I mean, I think obviously the Lord works in ways that obviously come full circle. And I think he, as you mentioned, has provided multiple different ways for you to come back to the group.
Yeah.
And I know that I've enjoyed getting to know you. The name Jason Troxel's floated around the Rorman Automotive name plate group forever and ever. And
Hopefully
you
it was
were
good.
You were the mystery man until 2022, 2023. So we're excited to see that. On the way out, quick questions for you. Overrated or underrated?
Oh, boy.
So you can't go any other way. You have to answer one or the other. We're going to give you a couple.
Can't ride the line.
We're going to give you a couple things. You throw them out there. So first up is going to be the 12-inch tuna sub from Subway. Overrated or underrated?
I say overrated because I'm not a tuna guy.
Fair point there. Second one, the new Santa Fe.
Oh, that's underrated. People don't even know. If you haven't seen this vehicle or even been in it, you owe it. Like Bob would always say, you owe it to yourself to come check this out.
And then the last one is the Rorman Automotive Driving Relations podcast. Overrated or underrated?
Well, it's probably a little underrated
Let's go.
until the next person comes on.
Or it's not rated at this point. So
Cool. Well, we're excited, obviously, to have you. Thanks for being the first
Absolutely.
run through here for us and the opportunity. And hopefully we get to be back with you later on this year and get an update of what's going on in the Hyundai.
Yeah, glad to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
you got it.